Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame D, NYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. Here with you tonight with a brand new segment, King's Corner. Been really working on this segment, for a while. And this has kind of started, through our off season and just trying to figure out a way to bring new content to you all. A lot of times you hear me on the podcast with my co-host Elisa Middleton talking about our young kings and our young men out here, how they're not really getting a lot of notoriety, um, really wanting to find men that are doing more in the community. It seems like that we're lost in the sauce along with everything else that's going on in this country. So the King's Corner segment kind of came about. And, today is the first live episode. We'll be doing this live, twice a month. And I'm really excited about the young man that I have here joining us this evening. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this brother in here to the broadcast studio. This brother is really doing something that I really find, I don't want to say it's totally innovative, but it's innovative in the sense that we have a man of color, spearheading this. And this is our next generation, which, really makes me proud and excited. And I had the pleasure of getting his information actually through my daughter's boyfriend, actually, from this man's hometown and, somebody he's familiar with. And he turned me on to this young man. So, we talked about real estate last season with two queens who are really working hard in the DMV area, Latricia Sistrunk and Sean Merrill. They really educated us a great deal on real estate. Hey Devontae, what's happening, my brother? And this is the young man that's the plug. He'll plug and the connect for tonight's guest. But like I say, Sean and Trisha really helped educate us last season. And tonight we're going to take that to the next level with this brother. And before we really get into the conversation, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let this gentleman introduce himself and give you a little bit of his background before we start this amazing conversation. Derrick, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Gotcha. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. It's a blessing to be able to connect with you guys and be able to jump on a platform like this and share our story and really just inspire. And so that's really what it's about. But my hometown, Martinsville, Virginia. So that's where I grew up at. I grew up in a single parent home. And so my mother did a little bit of everything to make sure that she made ends meet. So that's, 1, 2, 3 jobs, whatever that may be, to be honest with you. So growing up in an environment like that, I was always, a hustler, honestly, like a little entrepreneur. I had a little lawnmower service when I was like 13 years old where I cut the grass, my brother trimmed the bushes, and, we made a little money here and there. But, so I always had that hustle spirit and mentality just because of how we grew up. But, the environment I grew up in was an interesting environment because we enjoyed it as kids and you really didn't understand what was going on around you. But, I grew up in an environment where it was, the dope fiends and drug addicts was there and the guys that sold the drugs and all that stuff. I've seen a lot. I've seen people get shot and killed and things like that, all that craziness that does happen in society. That's the type of environment that I grew up in. And but fortunately, I was blessed to be talented in football enough where I was able to receive a opportunity to walk on as a recruited walk on to the Virginia Military Institute.
Wow.
And I walked on there for football with the mindset that environment was very different and it was going to train me and help me become successful in life. And so I ended up walking on there, redshirted my freshman year, came out my sophomore year. I was fourth string on the depth chart at running back. And before the end of the season, I was a starter, and I started ever since then. Earned a 4-ride scholarship and decided to commission into the Army Reserves before graduating. So I'm a master service officer too.
Thank you, man. We thank you for your service, man.
Yeah.
And I mean that wholeheartedly. That was really a lot, just in that, because with that background and everything, like you said, developing that mindset and living in the neighborhood that you lived in, and then being a young man of color, transitioning, and walking on, to VMI, the military academy, the institute, I'm sorry. Like, how has that really helped you develop a lot of your mindset that you may apply to your business principles today?
Yeah, so I would say I always tell people that my environment gave me the tools I needed to be successful, but VMI taught me how to use those tools to be successful.
Mm,
So as
mm,
I mentioned, I always had that entrepreneurial hustler type spirit, right?
right.
I always had that spirit in me. I always had that mentality. My mother would tell you I was a stubborn and hard headed kid. I wanted to do things my way, and I was going to figure it out one way or another. And I always been determined. I always had this ambition to be great at whatever it was I really wanted to do. And so when you grow up in that environment and you really are pushing to change things for your family, and I always had that
Mm,
mindset as a kid. So when I go to VMI, it's a tough environment, 100%, and I struggle with that. There's times I wanted to quit, and all type of things, right? Because it's tough. It's not what I would say I envisioned for myself when I was younger. But
mm,
what I understood is that I was there for a purpose, and that purpose was to learn certain things, to be able to take the information, to meet and connect with people. And the biggest thing was to learn how to navigate every room, right? I
mhm.
wasn't used to seeing the amount of people that were not like me. That was not normal for me. So I needed to learn how to interact with them and be proficient in no matter what environment I was in. And that's what VMI helped me with.
Wow. It's interesting that you mentioned that. So I think a lot of us, men of color, coming from that background, I not to say a similar story, but I grew up in a single parent home. Watched my mom work two, three different jobs to
Mhm.
uh, try to provide me the best opportunity. And it's funny that you mentioned it. I've talked about this before. I find myself a lot of times having been the only man of color. And a lot of that work that she put in, sending me to those schools when I was younger, I didn't understand it.
Yep.
I couldn't stand it. I hated it. But it also taught me how to, like you say, navigate the room, work harder than everybody else,
Yep.
to always be willing to take that extra step, put myself in a situation where, although it's uncomfortable, now when I look at it now, I see why she did all of those things.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to see the fruits of her labor, not only through myself, but through my child and where she is in her life. Because at her age, I wasn't nowhere near making the money that she's making. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the hard work does pay off, and it does really help. Um, I want to know though, when you really look at things, right, and your daily, like your day to day, what's something that you do that you find from all of this, from being, VMI, being a football player and an athlete? What do you do daily that you really help apply that you find that really correlates to your business day in and day out?
Honestly, I think it's the mental game of it, to be 100% honest with you. So, the one thing I can say that every single day that I'm going to always do is I always think through what needs to be done and how it needs to get done.
Mm,
And as easy as that sounds, that's the difference between a lot of people that can't find success in certain things because they just get up and they just do things, right? But when
mm,
you're an athlete, you have to think about the playbook, how you need to execute your steps, how you need to execute on different plays on, whatever the defense was. I was a running back. So
mm,
those little things on how you execute and how you be proficient at whatever it is you're doing is so critical. And then on top of that, you take that hustler's mentality that I grew up with, and then you take that hard work ethic that sports teach you, right? And that's just that tough mentality. And all those things in a combination is going to push you to a point where when you move towards the business world, when you have that mentality, you're already leg up on everyone else.
mm.
And you already said it, sometimes you're the only one in the room and you got to figure out, hey, here's what I'm going after. I got to make sure that I beat everybody, right? So if they take 10 steps, I'm taking 20.
Right.
And that mentality that you have to have in business,
Mm.
100%.
So let me ask you this, then, Derek. So in your age group, not like how do you find yourself being able to communicate with others like yourself, or really not like yourself? You may be in a situation where you've taken advantage of certain things. How do you communicate to your peers, on how to take the next step, or even where to begin? Like how
Mhm.
how do you even navigate those type of conversations?
Honestly, it's just being myself, being authentic. I think, as I mentioned, my background, right? And so when I
Hmm.
have conversations with people that are my age,
Hmm.
I don't approach them on a professional level. I approach them on a personal level. So I share my stories. I listen to what they have to say. I connect with them on a personal level. And then from there, my obligation is to give them the game that was given to me and to try to steer them in the right direction. Now they get the opportunity to choose whether or not they want to actually apply
Right.
it.
Right.
But I do feel like I'm obligated because of the people that have mentored me and poured into me, the community that has backed me, I feel 100% obligated to do the same thing. But you have to approach people where they are. And so that's being authentic, that's being personable, that's figuring out what they got going on. And how do I approach the situation? Everybody's different. And so when you do that, you can kind of build a following of people that 100% will support you because they know you're a real authentic person and you want to give back to your community anyways. So,
man, I love that right there, because that's what it's really about. Here, with us in this platform, really about, you and I talked about off here. This really trying to connect on a level where you can help support each other and really meet people where they are.
yeah,
And give them something, a knowledge, or like we like to say here, educate, empower, and impact. Give something back, that you have, that you can share to make not only our brothers better, but make our community better, make our community
absolutely.
stronger. And I just have to ask, so then, with the climate of today's America that we're living in, what has been the biggest obstacle that maybe you've had to face so far? And how did you get through it? What were you able to do, or what tools, or what did you draw from that helped you get through it?
I'll say, so moving into the tech space, the reality of it is when it comes to companies getting funded, when they're raising money through venture capitalists, it's like 2% of African American founded companies get funding. So last year was something crazy, like 30 some $billion, and out of that, only 2% went to African Americans.
Wow.
And that's divided between both men and women. So when you look at that type of environment, that already lets you know the cards is kind of stacked against you, right? And so to overcome that, what that takes is building a community around the product that you're building support, getting buy-in, and then starting to really expand that network. And so I would say that's been one of the biggest challenges that I've had over the past year, is really diving into that tech space and finding out that is the type of environment that I'm getting myself into. But at the end of the day, either you're going to complain or you're going to get up and try to figure out how do you fix it and solve it, right? And so what I did is I started to build a community around me, continuing to do that right now, and just continue to expand my network. A crazy network, right? And the way I approach, and what a lot of people have to realize, is when you approach people to build a network, you want to figure out how do you add value to people? Because when you can take information, your resources, your tools, your knowledge, whatever that may be, and you add value to other people, people will turn around and they'll be advocates for you.
Yes.
And that can go a long, long way.
You talk about your network, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But what you just speak on to me, like a lot of times, I call it bartering. Old school or old system bartering, where I learn about your service and your product, and I become a salesperson for you. Basically, now I'm able to go out if I hear someone talk about real estate. Now moving forward, now that I know enough about you and I feel comfortable talking about it. Oh, hey, I know this brother, man. He's got an app. Go check him out. Download his app. It's real educational, and for all you listen, those you listen, we're going to get into that. It's real important. But this is a bartering thing where, like I said, now you have a sales team. And you have people that find you genuine, and they love what you're doing, and you're giving back to the community. So now we're all working together hand in hand. But what I did want to ask you, you mentioned, like you said, your network. Can you describe some of what your network looks like? So if there's others out there that's trying to do something or interested in doing what you're doing, can you kind of explain how you go about picking your network or choosing your network, or who's involved in your network?
Yeah, I'll tell you now, my network is super diverse. And so to be honest with you, if you're going to be in business and you want to be successful in business, you got to be a very open-minded person as far as the people that you're going to deal with, right? People of all races, men and women. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. My thing is, are you a good person? Are you doing business right? And can I add value to you? And can you add value to me? And that's really what's important to me. And so, I mean, I have people that, people from my own neighborhood up to people that are multimillionaires, that when I say multimillionaires, like I'm talking hundreds of $1 million.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And being connected to people like that, having access to, people that are, in movies and things like that, and different, professional athletes as well. So my network is very, very different, in the sense of I'm really connected to a lot of different people. And some of those people, I'm connected to them because somebody has introduced me to them. And for me, it's about adding value to them. I've never asked them for anything, but at the end of the day, if I ever call them or need them for something, because I've added value, because I was a genuine person, I was real with them. 9 times out of 10, those people are going to always look out for you as well.
Man, that's awesome. So, for those of you listening, brothers especially, got to kind of change up your game. Make yourself open. You know, I like to say lovingly, it's why you have two ears and one mouth. It's twice as hard to listen and process what's coming in. And that's why you only have one mouth. You got to take time to process to speak through it. And I think that's real important in what you just said. So transitioning, Derrick, let's just get into the real estate. Let's really get into the meat of, why, I really wanted to have you on tonight. Talk to me, like, what inspired you? Like, real talk. Like, how did you get inspired, or what moved you to really want to get into real estate?
So my mentor, Dexter Craig. So, I mean, honestly, he's like a father figure to me. That's who really gave me the real estate like playbook. And even to this day, still guides me and gives me advice on pretty much everything, even my business now at this point. But honestly, I think when he opened up the door of what real estate could potentially mean for me, I started looking through that lens. And just being an ambitious person, I was looking for somewhere to put my energy and my focus into anyways, because I didn't have football anymore, right? And I've been an athlete my entire life. So once I really found that passion of what real estate could do for my family, as far as building a legacy, it was on from there. I started trying to look and learn everything I could, podcasts, books, over the internet. It didn't matter. I was joining random groups. I really didn't care where it came from. I just needed that information. And I wanted every single resource that I could get.
Man, that's also so. I just have to ask then. So when your first buy, or your first purchase, or your first investment, what was that, and how did it go down? Like, kind of walk us through that first investment and that feeling that you got from that first experience.
So I was my first investment property, like 100% investment property, was in Martinsville. I actually seen this rundown building that I was trying to find how to get into the entrance. And so I made a little turn here and there, and then I stumbled across a nice looking duplex that had a for sale by owner sign. And so took some pictures of it. I reached out to my mentor, asked him about it. He's like, man, just do it. Just call her up, see what the price is, and let's see what we can work out from there. And so I gave this lady a call, and initially she wanted $49,000 for the property, and that was cash. Talked to my mentor. He kind of schooled me a little bit, got me ready to roll. I went back to it. We negotiated. I ended up getting it for $30,000 in cash.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then after that, it was just really about the rehab process. And so my mentor really schooled me the game. He said, you don't go out here and start putting all of your own money into it. And so my $30,000 I bought it with was private money from him. When I could do the rehab, my rehab was about $17,000. I used personal lines of credit, so the bank funded that. Then when I did my cash out refinance, I paid him back. I paid the bank back. Now I own the property, and I cleared a nice little check for myself as well.
Man, that's what's up. So I just have to think, because, like, for those who don't really understand, like, first properties like that, would you suggest, or could you suggest, like, I know old school, we would look, or what we did when I was coming up, we invested in trailer homes, and 5, 6, 7, whatever. You had a handyman who, like you said, can do reconstruct or whatever. And, if you were making, $700-800 a month, you had 10 properties, it was kind of free and clear back then.
Yeah.
And is that still something, or a way to go for, maybe a young entrepreneur, a young person trying to kind of gain or get his feet wet in the game? Would that be something still viable today, or would you suggest another way?
Absolutely. So mobile homes is making a comeback. And that's no lie. It's a big movement happening right now in the real estate community, where people are actually going out there buying mobile homes, they're rehabbing them, and they're putting them in their lease option them, basically, giving people the opportunity to pay them monthly rent that goes toward the purchase price of the actual mobile home. So that's a real big thing that's happening right now, because honestly, the mobile home, once they buy it from you, I mean, you're just clearing the lot space at that point in time. And as long as everything else is good, it's pretty free and clear money, because they own their trailer. They're paying you for the lot space. So it's some good money in that. honestly, with the game of real estate, what I always tell people is there's so many ways to skin a cat, right?
Mhm.
And real estate is the exact same way. You can line up 10 different investors that all give you 10 different answers around how to get started and what to do in real estate, but the themes is the same. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what type of property you buy. You got to make sure that you're buying a property where the numbers make sense. And as long as the numbers make sense, it's a go.
So just in listening and that, so how? I mean, obviously, listening, you do a lot of reading,
No,
and you do and you stay on top of the industry and the market. How did you take all of that information, and how have you been able to one apply it really to the app itself? Because now I want to talk about the app and really how did you come about that development, the design, the concept. And when I was reading and looking at it, that's a lot of information really in that app. So like, walk us through that whole process,
absolutely.
man.
We're just getting started too, which is the exciting part, man. And Zelite is it honestly, after I did the Bigger Pockets rookie podcast, man, I had hundreds of people reaching out to me across social media, really asking me where did I get all my education from in real estate. And they was, wanting websites and resources and all these different things. And what I realized really quickly is that real estate education is broken and it's outdated. You have to go all over the internet. You searching YouTube videos, listening to books, podcasts. It's all type of things that are not efficient. And so what Zelite is and what it's going to grow to be is really like this ultimate resource for investors. And so the way that, I kind of have created it mentally, and what we're building towards is a platform where you go in there, you answer some questions, and the app starts to tailor your experience within real estate towards what you are actually looking to do. And so the goal with that is if I am somebody that's looking for buy and hold, I log into there, I answer a couple questions. Hey, Derrick is looking for buy and hold properties in Dallas, Texas. And so I get educated on buy and hold stuff. I get news articles and data information around the market and different things around buy and hold in the Dallas market. And so now what starts to happen is I become educated in what I am choosing to invest in. And I understand my market because that information, the tools and resources and all that stuff's being fed to me in an efficient way. And that's what it's about. I spent months just trying to learn all these different things that I learned. And, and I'm thankful for the process 100%. But everybody shouldn't do that. And when I look at my community, when I look at how I really want to give this game to people, more people like us, right? We got to make this information more accessible. We got to make it easier to obtain. That's part of the reason why we are so far behind. Some of the information is just too hard to obtain and too hard to be accessible. So Zelite is going to do that for people.
Man, and that's what I love. Because like I say, I know looking at it at first, when I first, was looking into you and your background, and I was like, man, this, I mean, it could be massive. It could be intimidating.
Yeah.
And this was early on, but I see you've kind of gone through, I guess, like a beta process or some testing. And some of the things now that I've seen, I'm like, oh, that, and again, not to, our community where a lot of us are not very versed,
Yeah.
but it made it so that I was like, oh, well, I think most of us would be able to comprehend and kind of it's a walkthrough guide
Yep.
on how to do it. So I found that fascinating, and I really want to really get this out to as many in our community. Funny enough, some other brothers that I deal with, I don't know, it was the sun and the moon, or the stars align, and we have a little group chat, talking about investing today, and brothers want to do some different things. So I just find it ironic, here it is tonight, you're on, and maybe this might be another outlet or another catalyst, to spurn or educate, us as men of color to go ahead and move into that next phase of building that generational wealth that we all look for and we aspire to. Um,
Absolutely.
what else do you think, or what do you feel, especially in the Black and brown community, um, what else do you have, or what other nuggets do you feel you can share with us that would really, because everyone here, thank you, Costa Rican, thank you, Alex, finding it very informative. But what would be one other nugget or piece of advice that you can leave that may be poignant for us to kind of take and then walk into Zelite and follow your app and download your app and continue our education with?
I would say the biggest thing that I preach honestly is leave a legacy. Uh,
Mm,
Go out here and build something for the future, build something for your kids, build something for your grandkids, right? We only get one life, for sure. So you want to live and you want to enjoy your life. Super important. But what we fail to do a lot of times in our community is to build something, acquire assets, or pass down the right knowledge, so that the generations behind us come up and it's a lot easier for them. And
mm,
so it is so important. So I preach that to a lot of people, honestly. And I'm very, very much on my brothers because I need to see more of us do that. There's too many men out here that are growing up, figuring this thing out on their own, and they
mm,
have kids and they don't pass that down, right? And there's too many of us that is growing up with a bunch of liabilities and no assets to pass down. And so, our kids have it even harder. If not, I mean, honestly, let's look at today's time, right? It's getting harder and harder. College is going up and everything, the
oh,
cost of living, everything's going up, and they're not paying people enough, right?
right.
So it's getting harder and harder year over year. And it's time that as men that we step up, that we start leaving a legacy, go acquire some assets, pass some things down to our kids, start thinking about our kids and our grandkids, and then you're going to start to see your family excel. That's the only
Right.
way we can do it. But somebody has to do the real work. Somebody has to do the heavy lifting, right? Somebody has to
Mm-hmm.
breaks those generational curses, that breaks those mindsets and those bad cycles that we have in our community. And so I always encourage my brothers that if we're having a conversation and you're gonna be connected to me, then that got to be your mission because that's the only thing I'm working on, honestly.
Man, I got kudos to you, bro, because that's really a lot of what I speak on, here. I really feel our sisters, our women have been out in the forefront for far too long.
Absolutely, and they
And
kicked it up too.
man, look, kudos to them, man. Look, we would not be where we are without the women
100.
leading, what that's 100%.
Yeah,
But now is the time, we sit here, now it's time to actually, like you said, take the bull by the horns.
hmm
Be men, break that cycle, claim your seat, put your women, your children on your back, move forward and change the game, because we're talented and we have the tools to do so. And I'm honored and I'm glad that you're the first official guest here on King's Corner. This is how I wanted to kick it off. So I really appreciate you, taking time tonight. But before we go, you know, I have to ask, and this is kind of a off the wall question. Um, so let's just say, if you could have a billboard, Times Square, New York, what would the if you could have one impactful statement, like I want to make it impactful, like what would you want on that billboard that speaks about you or about yourself or about Zelite, and what would it read or what would it say and why?
generational game changer.
Hmm.
So you'll see that on all of my social media, and what I mean by that is, for my generation, really changing the game, right? So it's taking, like I said, the education, the knowledge, the information I have. I've been blessed with the ability to be able to connect with people very well. I've been giving all this knowledge, all these examples through life, and just all this information and all these different experiences, right? And somebody has to be the one to shake the tree a little bit and start to
Mhm.
get people to follow them, right? And so doing that through conversations like what me and you are having, doing those through private conversations that look very similar to what we're having right now, right? But then going out here now and saying, I'm going to build a platform that's going to help people build wealth and give them the game for free.
Mm.
We're not charging you for this right now. We're not doing any of that. Right now, it's about giving people this education in a consolidated way, in a
Mm.
way where now it's with you any given time. It's an app. You don't have to go all over the internet to get this information, right?
Right.
And educate our people. So somebody has to be the one in our generation that starts to draw that line in the sand and say, hey, we will do better. We can do better. Here's the knowledge, here's the tools, here's the resources. And so that's what I want my legacy to be as I continue to build my legacy, is that I was a generational game changer. And I want the things that I'm building, I want the information that I give out, I want the conversations that I have to continue to sprinkle out there and touch millions of people. And it's not an undoable thing. It's not an impossible thing. All it takes is things like what we're doing today, building a
Mhm.
business like what I'm building today, and stay the course, right?
Man, I love it, man. I'm inspired. You got my head standing up, bro. Like I love to hear that. I've been blessed to be around a lot of young men, like yourself that are really, you think differently than my generation. You guys move differently, but I love the words that I'm hearing, and I love the movement and the way that you all move. It's powerful, and I'm honored to be able to have you on this platform. I'm honored to be able to share your story. Um, Anybody that's listening, check this man out. And matter of fact, Derrick, before we close out, please take a few minutes to let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can follow you. Please let us know anything that you have upcoming, before we get out of here this evening.
Yep. So on Instagram and on Twitter, it is D Ziglar Jr. So that is DZiglar Jr. And that's my Instagram and my Twitter. That's the best place to reach me at, is on those two platforms. Right now, Zelite is out in the App Store for iOS only. So if you want to take a look at that app, go ahead and type in Zelite, Zelite, and it'll pop up in the App Store. Set up a account with us and let's get rolling. If you guys ever want to reach out to me, social media is a great way to do it. I connect with everybody that DMs me, especially if it's about real estate and that app.
Yeah, y'all better get it, because like I said, I've had the pleasure of rolling through it. Like I said, originally I was a little mind blown, but I've seen the development take place. It's really interesting. It's informative. It's educational. It's inspiring. And if you're really just looking to, just have some financial freedom, some financial gains, change the game for yourself and your children and your children's children, I definitely say look into it. Join up, sign up. I look forward to Derrick, you growing and expanding and you coming back on and chopping it up with us some more, man. It's your home now. You're always welcome back. Anything we can do here at Two Mics Up, let me know. Send us some information, and we'll be happy to share at the drop of a dime. Yeah, exactly, Devontae. This has been extremely motivational. It's really been a moving conversation. Listeners, yep, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. For those of you still listening and still here, I just want to let you know a few things that's coming up with Two Mics Up. Um, First of all, we're going to be working on another segment called Open Mics. A lot of us have really been dealing with the pandemic. We've been dealing with, this crazy government. Some of you may think things are better. I don't know if my co-host is still here in the audience. I can't see at the moment. She and I beg to differ. We'll be talking live about how, although the president has changed, the office and things and the climate of this country has stayed the same. We're dealing with the George Floyd incident and the trial. So with Open Mic, we're going to be posting a few things in the next day or so. We're going to allow you, and we really want to hear from you all, whether it be calling in or if you want to submit a video about 3 to 5 minutes in length. And we'll be taking that information and we'll be, creating some conversation, or we might create an episode. A therapeutic episode really is the idea. So many of us are really dealing with so many things today. I just want to allow, our listeners and our friends and family to have a place to vent. So that'll be coming up next. You can also follow Two Mics Up online at www.twomicsup.com. Brand new website. We've got a web store coming. Stay tuned for that. You can also follow us across social media, IG, Facebook, and Twitter at Two Mics Up. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Follow us and subscribe on YouTube. Brand new content. We're kind of evolving the podcast, and then we're becoming content creators. So you'll be seeing more content on YouTube from us. And like we always do at this time, we like to close out by saying stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.